smash, crash, stars rush by as we
Kazow!
hyperspace through to the zone that we call frame rate, the show where we rate frames.
Zone.
Today we're zoning about fucking Galaxy Quest, and that's why I tried to imitate a hyperlight travel sequence and failed.
Yeah, so get the travel goo all over your body because we're taking you to the final frontier.
We are recording this entire episode encased in goo. I hope you appreciate our dedication.
Yeah, our cocoon, our gooish cocoons.
Because this stuff's definitely gonna give us cancer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This will be the final episode of Frame Rate.
Yeah. And where we'll fight scaly monsters.
Exactly. So Galaxy Quest.
Oh.
What about it?
So 1999.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. It's one of those, fun romps that just kind of like, it's the gift that keeps giving. You said you watched it like 20 times.
Yeah.
I've probably watched it
well.
a dozen times. It's every few years I'm like, oh yeah, Galaxy Quest. And it doesn't have anything crazy to say. It's just a well-crafted joke movie.
Mm-hmm. It is a perfect movie for what it sets out to do. It accomplishes all of its goals as well as it possibly could have.
Precisely.
I just rewatched it with a friend of mine who had never seen it and had been a little bit worried coming up to it because I hadn't seen it in like 2 years. Like, is this going to be like watching Firefly last year was for me, where I'm like, ooh, boy, some of this shit don't hold up.
Some of it doesn't, and some of it still does. Like,
Are you talking about Galaxy Quest?
Firefly.
Oh, yeah.
I just got to say, I also rewatched Firefly and was like, Joss Whedon's not the genius I thought he was all the time. But episodes like Trash and The Message still are as good as you thought they were. But there's a bunch of weak episodes in between that you glossed over in your memory.
I'm a War Stories and Out of Gas man, personally.
And Objects in Space.
Objects in Space, I enjoy.
Yeah, no, all those. I just plucked the
There's
first
only
ones that came to
13.
me.
Yeah.
Right, and we named 5 that I think are the best ones. And if you watch the rest, you're like, some of this is really
There are
swings
some
and misses.
serious low points, and the action is like, I mean, and I think some of that's unfair because it was good TV action for its time,
It was Buffy
and they have
level
gotten
action,
better at making action in television.
TV had not hit its quote unquote golden era.
Right.
There wasn't any season 1 True Detectives yet. There wasn't, like necessarily all the, like, if Deadwood were to be made now, I'm not saying it would be like a Game of Thrones, but it would probably get more than 3 seasons.
You think?
Well, they're making a movie.
Of Deadwood? Yeah, I heard that. I think it's too smart, which is mean to say to everyone in the world, but...
I'm shocked we got 3 seasons.
And, like, I'm always shocked Arrested Development continues because I think it's, like, too smart and good for the people to even deserve to get.
It pisses me off because it only needed 1 more.
Deadwood?
Yeah.
I think Deadwood could have done 5.
Yeah, but I think 4 would have been perfect.
But maybe that's just because Breaking Bad and The Wire have set that template in my mind of like,
and
I guess that's the right number of seasons to get in, get out.
And it's got to end with the burning of the town. I mean, that's
of course
what happened.
Yeah.
So like that's where it was going.
Yeah.
Is George Hurst arrives with his Pinkerton army and just burns everyone and kills everyone.
And that's the end of the series.
And that's the end
Evil
of it.
wins.
And Al Swearingen dies in Denver like 9 years later.
Yeah, with a knife in his hand and
shot in the back of the head though in a bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
By someone he pissed off.
all thanks to Calamity Jane's autobiography.
Best character.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean that's how we know everything about
That's
Deadwood.
how we know everything about Deadwood is a writer followed Calamity Jane. Anyway,
does Galaxy Quest hold up? That was the topic on the table.
Yeah, sorry,
and I think we're delighted to report that it doesn't lose its luster.
Even the special effects really holds up. Like,
that's true.
There were no shots in there.
The little CG children miners shots. Those
perfectly
are all good.
acceptable stuff.
The rock monster is all solid.
I feel that way about Dragonheart. The dragon effects are still good.
Is that the Jeremy Irons or the Sean Connery? Yeah, okay.
I am the last dragon.
I am the last dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that one holds up too. I remember, I like that movie.
I don't know if Galaxy Quest will hold up for generations to come, like an all-time classic, but I do feel that it holds up so well because it's startlingly ahead of its time. Structurally and tone-wise, if it came out today, the effects would have to be updated slightly. But it would fit right in with all the Marvel movies and like Guardians of the Galaxy and shit. And there were very few films of that tone at that time. Like, we had romps, but this was a different kind of, it's going to be an epic effects-driven roller coaster ride that is also a light comedic romp. And that's now the dominant form of film.
Right.
And I think Galaxy Quest almost doesn't get enough credit because they knew that before it even started happening.
And unlike about 80% of the movies that meet that broad description that come out today, every character has an arc. Every character goes through something and changes. It's like it's a movie. Like
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the new Jumanji yet?
No.
It feels a lot like that. Like, I think kids today will grow up thinking Jumanji really holds up.
Really? That's good to hear.
And it was,
Yeah,
it's
great.
like, it does. It's a romp and it doesn't fuck up, and that's all you expected. You know, like there's nothing glaringly bad. But it was interesting structurally, and this is, I think Galaxy Quest is perfect, like you're saying. There's 4 characters, and they all have very clear promise scenes, A scenes, which is, I'm addicted to my phone, so I don't have any real friends. I'm a nerd, so I don't have a girlfriend, blah, 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 blah. 3 out of the 4 get very clear wrap-up scenes in the end. And then there's one character who in the beginning is like, I cheat on tests and I just got caught, so they kicked me off the football team, and that's all I've ever been good at, and I have great inferiority about my intellect. And by the end, this is the Kevin Hart character. Never mentioned, like, you don't even know if he's still kicked off the football team. So I just like little structural shit like that bugs me. So I was an eagle eye for that in Galaxy Quest, because I feel like if you're going to do a thing that's, let's be honest, is paint by numbers, like it's the plot complexity is like a young adult novel level. So it's all just about the little execution things, and like you can't fuck up at all. Like if you're going to present a dish, I watch a lot of cooking shows that only has 4 ingredients. The new rule is you can't have fucked anything up at all. Like the scrutiny is increased. And so Galaxy Quest, I think, stands the test of time because it's crazy how it didn't fuck up at all.
Yeah, you know, it's like I said, it's a perfect movie. It's not like a great film or whatever, if you want to make that. It's not Lawrence of fucking Arabia or whatever, but it doesn't make any mistakes.
That's so funny because you weren't here for this, and we just referenced Lawrence of Arabia because we were saying, I've been running a lot of polls to get a feel for what the frame rate audience wants to hear us talk about. And the first time it was like a great film, a weird horror movie, and Princess Bride. And Princess Bride won by 100% of the vote. And this time it was like Galaxy Quest, Magnolia, I Love You, Daddy. And they're like, Galaxy Quest. Like, this is the shit people want, is Princess Bride and
Fun
Galaxy
romps.
Quest.
Yeah.
This was, I guess, part of why we were talking about this earlier, because we just recorded the Magnolia podcast, which is one of Abe's favorite movies.
Yes.
And Galaxy Quest is one of my favorite movies. And I say that, like, there's nothing deep about life or the universe in this film. It is not a great work of human art that will be there for generations to come. But when I saw it, like, I was a huge Star Trek nerd as a kid. Like, I'm still a giant Star Trek nerd. And I don't like Discovery. I'm not like I didn't even like Voyager that much. Like, I'm TNG in the original series. Like,
Did you like USS Callister?
I loved the USS Callister. Okay. I thought that was wonderful. And I like Seth. I don't like Seth MacFarlane normally, but I like the Orville.
The Orville's
yeah, it's exactly what I want.
Yeah, stuff. You should give it a shot.
Have you seen it?
I've watched 4 episodes.
Okay, that's a shot.
And what grates me is not. It's just I do not like the way the man writes, and I don't like the jokes he makes.
My favorite thing is the cut up that hit the internet of every time he inhales or exhales, because that's how he thinks of acting.
Yeah,
he goes like, look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, it's always that exhale and stuff. It's true that he's not a great actor, but
to me, it's the writing. There's a scene where like they're introducing. Though he's flirtatiously like introducing his doctor character by having him go, you don't think I have the balls to pilot this ship? And she goes, well, as the doctor, I'll have to inspect your balls. And I'm like, fucking Starfleet people would not talk like this.
Yeah.
And I know that it's a comedy version of it, but that's not even funny, on point sci-fi humor.
Right.
It's just American, or it's just like Family Guy balls jokes. But now we're on a TNG set. That's not enough for me.
I think you'll find, because I don't know if you're with me on this. Like the first 4 episodes, that's a shot. I'm not gonna say you don't. You need to like.
Put 4 hours into it. But like, no one can ask for more.
The second half of season 1 is far superior.
Okay.
Yeah.
In every way to the first half, because they leaned into, and it's clear that that's probably what they're going to do for the following seasons, leaned into like these bottle episodes of like, here is a very interesting take on a very complex, like kind of South Park-esque.
Yeah.
Like they have one about like transgender. They have one about like, or just gender roles in general, that they like placate both sides and fuck with. And so it's like, it feels like a TNG episode where you have like, you arrive on a planet and there's the, they're racist against each other, but they're really just the same, like, but they found an interesting
parables,
way to do little parables.
Well, it's not, I will say, one thing I will say is that for where it is, if you compare it to TNG, it is certainly no worse than where TNG was at the end of its, or 10 or 11 episodes into its first season. Because let's remember the episode where everybody gets high and Yar fucks Data.
Right.
Like that, TNG did not start off like a firecracker.
Right, but history is cumulative, and I have a higher standard because this show's made by people who all can watch TNG and learn from it.
And there's areas where they have and areas where they haven't. There are areas, like there's one, I will say, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it has the best joke I've ever seen by far in the robotic crew member doesn't understand humor all the way.
Okay.
The prank one?
Yeah, it's the prank one. It's perfect. It's better than any version of that joke TNG ever did. They really nailed it.
And Red Dwarf and Hitchhiker's Guide?
Definitely Hitchhiker's Guide.
Okay. I haven't seen enough of Red Dwarf.
Yeah, I couldn't say with Red Dwarf, but it's a good joke.
It's not necessarily an update, but for what's on sci-fi, not the channel, but just in general, the genre,
the
milieu, like it's doing a lot better than I'd say a Discovery or like they're all doing narratives that are just like pulp.
Macaroni and cheese and cut up hot dogs are not like good food by anyone's standards, but if I am hungry, I will enjoy every bite. And there is nothing, no one else is even trying to do what TNG used to do, what Star Trek used to do.
Oh, I thought Discovery was. I haven't seen it.
No, it's just a straight narrative.
It's like a war story type thing.
Yeah,
which is more the original series. And
it
the
just
new movies,
rebooted itself in a way that might make it interesting, but so far it's not. I've been watching it because I want to make sure if I'm right or not.
The best thing Star Trek ever had and ever has and ever will have going for it is asking really interesting questions.
Right.
Right.
And
like, can Gene Roddenberry get away with touching me like that? Is that fine?
Wait, did that? Oh.
I've heard some rumors about Gene Roddenberry as well.
I mean, but he was never, because he fought against a lot of the good stuff in TNG. Whatever.
Did he? I didn't know that.
Yeah. But like,
no more heroes, man.
Nobody. Dude, fucking Picard's still a hero.
I mean, there's that Pakistani kid you just told us about. He's a fucking hero. Out during the break.
Oh, I thought you were saying. Saying
Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart molested a Pakistani kid. I was going to be like, don't do that to me today, Michael.
No, I'm saying real life heroes abound. Most of them are dead by assassination, but there are heroes, obviously.
Yeah.
I just love this very specific Pakistani kid.
Man, we found that would be big for me. If I found
Patrick
out
Stewart
P2 molested a kid, I'd be like,
we're just talking. Yeah,
that would crush me. Yeah,
because it's funny. I have been trying to think who would hurt me the most. Which is not how to think about this, of course, because the victims deserve all the justice they can get, and our support is with them. But you do try to think like, who do I just hope is not a monster? Patrick Stewart's up there, yeah.
I've accepted Bill Murray probably is.
I've accepted that Bill Murray not only that, but is probably like a raging asshole in real life and is full of himself and vain and shit. I probably don't like Bill Murray.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to, because he's the emblematic, cool, slovenly comedian, which is my persona.
But let's be all clear, we know nothing about Bill Murray.
I know nothing about.
No, but the shit you hear about the Caddyshack shoot is widely corroborated, and I'm saying literally doing that, like hiring a deaf assistant so that he couldn't get called to set because he wanted to drink and fuck around. To me, that's already like, I'm not saying that's the same as being a sex predator, but I would already, if I knew you in my personal life, say you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
I love to party, but everyone's here waiting on set to do the thing. Can you just come today and do the, like, you're still an asshole.
Yeah, in Groundhog Day, Ramis called him the Murricane.
Right, because he really gets off on the fact that, like, you don't know if I'm going to show up sober or straight, and you don't know when I'm going to show up, and when I show up, I'm still going to do a good job. And I'm like, I bet you do. I see it in the movies. You do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
You're not an asshole though.
Well, he's like I don't know, to bring up a not very good movie. He's like Hancock, you know. He's a superhero, and his superpower is perfect delivery.
Sure.
Like Bill Murray will every time he delivers a line, like fucking when the scene in Ghostbusters where he's like, "It's true, this man has no dick." Like it couldn't have been done better.
Right, because it's not even that strong of a line. He makes the line.
Yeah, exactly. It's everything with his face, and it doesn't even work if you just hear it.
And
you
how
have
little
to
he
see
cares.
his cheeks.
The whole package, yeah.
Yeah.
He's just a funny man.
And getting back to the Galaxy Quest,
yeah.
like we were talking about how like it's crazy how Tim Allen, and we've like kind of forgotten.
Run me down. I know it's something with coke. I know on Home Improvement he was on coke. Is that all that he's arrested for coke?
He was arrested in an airport trying to smuggle coke, and he sold out the other people he was doing it with so he wouldn't get jail time. Like he put other people in prison so he wouldn't get in trouble.
So his career could continue.
Yeah, it could start really because I don't think he'd done anything.
Really
at that
really?
Point. Yeah.
Oh, so he didn't not even cashing in celebrity status at that point.
No.
He's just
he
a
just
bad
turned
friend.
on people and put them in prison.
It's just publicly known that he's a very bad friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Feels very tame in terms of like everything
as far as I know, he's never molested anybody.
Did he grope them on the coke?
No.
All right, Tim Allen, you're a goddamn hero.
See,
he's just a narc.
He's just a narc.
Yeah.
See, here, you guys were talking because this whole conversation got started with like the pulp of like a popcorn movie or of a quote unquote perfect film. I think there's more credit to Galaxy Quest than we're giving it. I would actually, it's one of your favorite movies, Robert, but like there is some heart in it. I think it was doing a lot more than a movie of its ilk, like meaning like a kind of like fun little adventure ditty that doesn't have a lot of action, but is kind of like got comedy going on. Like in that genre, I mean, I wouldn't call it a genre, I guess, but like of those types of movies that were coming out at that time in the late 90s, early 2000s, it has a very strong arc of like being a family and, like the redemption story of the Tim Allen character. Like just the idea that he was totally an asshole and he's separated from his friends and then did the right thing. And then even the culmination, like the last scene where he's like, "You all take a bow." Yeah, it's not that much. It's not adding much, but my heartstrings are a little bit pulled.
I would argue that heart is different than having a momentous insight into the human experience or life itself. So I still would differentiate it from something like Magnolia or...
Absolutely, but I'm saying of movies of like look at another Justin Long picture. Like,
because like Jumanji also tugs your heartstrings, or 20 minutes from the end when it's supposed to. They know how to do it.
The movie I was thinking of was like Accepted. That's like a perfect version of something that like that's not a bad movie.
I don't remember. Can you?
Yeah,
Justin Long starts a fake college.
That's right. To
trick but like it tries to have heart, but like its heart is not there really. Yeah. And it's because in that type of movie where it's like a comedic kind of, I keep using the word romp, but in Galaxy Quest, there is an actual...
Also
everyone has
Justin
an
Long,
arc.
Right?
Huh?
Justin Long also in Galaxy Quest is one of the super nerds.
Yes. And each of the main team, even down to Sam Rockwell's Guy character, has, like we were mentioning at the beginning of this...
His name is Guy.
Do I have a last name? Do I? You don't know. Even that, like they all have... like that rondo format, and by that I mean like they go A, B, A prime, so they go somewhere and come back out of the woods changed and better when they're home. They're all back at home at a convention.
Right.
They're all better people now. The movie starts literally. It's like it's a reflection, like a mirror image of itself.
Right. Like
it
those
starts
are
with like a
intro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Starts with an intro sequence where it's like, this is what Galaxy Quest. And then when it's after 17 years, it's back.
Yeah.
And now, even the Guy character is like now the security officer. So it's like everyone's more assured of himself, more confident. They love each other more, even though they started from this bad place.
I'll tell you though, that's not the part that makes me cry and makes my heart swell.
Alan Rickman?
It's by Grabthar's hammer I will avenge.
Oh
you.
my God.
That's the tears.
And that's a fucking, let's just gush about Alan Rickman for a moment. That's a mark of a great actor, that you can make that ridiculous line and that ridiculous situation feel real and earned. And that's also a credit to the writing. But
and you can
Yes.
pivot immediately.
Yeah.
They can go, we need this comical tone where the danger is not very scary. Got it. Okay, now we need it to really matter that you're dying
Hate
and make the
this
audience
line.
cry.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
it can do it immediately.
It's obvious. It's not just obvious that they're mocking Spock and Nimoy.
Dude, you got Sigourney Weaver, Tony
It's a
Shalhoub,
power
Sam Rockwell.
cast.
It's also a
Yeah.
luck of the draw, like one of the
Right.
best ensemble comedy
Yeah.
casts ever in a thing.
Because Sigourney Weaver had just finished doing big stuff and was
Right.
like,
In
open
retrospect,
and,
it's weird now that she's honorarily always the sci-fi villain.
Yeah.
Watching it now, I'm like, she's gonna turn evil. She's gonna take over the ship because like Cabin in the Woods, voicing Wally. She's always like the evil sci-fi queen now. It's
What?
funny.
She's so good.
It's also funny that there's a running gag, kind of like, God, we were talking about Louis C.K. a lot today, so it's in my head. But you know how Louis C.K. is always a cop, like
Yeah.
in his act. Like
Yeah.
it became a gag, not to the audience, but to like Hollywood. I guess not elites, but
right to cast him as a cop.
make him a cop. It's funny. Sigourney Weaver has a thing with sci-fi computers.
Yeah, agreed.
yeah.
People think it's funny to make her the voice of the ship.
To make her voice of the ship, and she in this role, she specifically hates I just repeat what is being said by the ship, which of course
God,
is
such a good wink.
Well,
Yeah.
And there's what this movie does best. That is legitimately probably the most impressive thing about it is that it is a parody. It's a loving parody, which you almost don't see. Like it is clearly making fun of tropes of Star Trek in particular. And
With
really
deep
Star Trek,
knowledge,
and not
they don't
just
get
even-
anything
yeah.
wrong. They're gonna reference the red shirt thing. Blah
but
blah blah. Yeah.
But it's not to tear down, and it ends in a. There's that great Patrick Stewart quote where he talks about Galaxy Quest. He didn't want to see it at first because he thought it was going to be not just making fun of the show, but making fun of the fans and fandom, and
and
he
the
didn't want to
idea
do
of being
that.
hopeful and
Yeah.
utopia. Yeah.
And then he got dragged to it, and he was like, "Oh, this is actually really like." And he wound up calling some of his former cat. I think he called like Riker on the phone and was like, "You really ought to see this because it's an actual
Number
like,
one.
Yeah,
You must see this film.
make it so
Freaks.
engage with AMC
number
Yeah.
one.
But yeah, it's like that's what was such a nice moment for me seeing this as like because I was like this is what 99, so I
Yeah.
was like
Yep.
a fucking 12 or 13 when I saw this.
baby.
Was like seeing like a movie that didn't make fun of me. That was the first time I saw a movie that talked about fandom and didn't make fun of me for being a fan.
It
Although
never once has the
Yeah.
slight. I mean, I
the
guess,
nerds still have that pastiche of
Like,
late
Mom,
80s
I gotta
nerds that
do-
were making fun of
But
the
it's
fact that they're nerds.
honest.
But they do become heroes.
Yeah.
Through being plucky and courageous. And I also think we should mention how genius the central conceit that we haven't brought up yet that fuels the like core of the movie, that if you're gonna, it's brilliant if you're gonna make this movie, you want to comment on Star Trek and you don't want to insult it too much. The alien race's technology is built on episodes of Star Trek, so the real actors can be in a Star Trek ship commenting on how, I never thought about it because we were just filming a TV show, but now that we're fighting for our lives, this is a poorly designed ship. The system makes no sense.
Why would you make this?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Why would the timer always end at 1 second?
This is bad writing.
Because that's how it ends. It ends at 1 second. That's when you stop the
Yeah.
explosion, always. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and it's
Why is there a giant chopping blade?
this is bad writing. She hates the writers, and of course she hates the writers because they never gave her anything to do.
That's one of my favorite lines in the movie. The way she delivers that. This is bad writing.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
The tone, the timbre of her
Yeah,
scream.
yeah.
Can we each give favorite line? I'm going first because I might claim yours. It's Tony Shalhoub saying.
Yeah, mine was Tony Shalhoub.
Really?
Yeah, that would actually be that was a hell of a thing.
Or I got an idea. I'm gonna do something before he just manipulates the. He doesn't get high explicitly in the movie, right?
I actually have.
But he's playing it
factoid
high.
behind that.
I knew. I was trying to get
He's
it out.
eating popcorn for like a third of
One
it.
of my favorite. Well, I think next to that, one of my favorite lines is Tony Shalhoub is like, when they find the beryllium sphere, and he like turns to his team of the people who did all the work, and he's like, "Really good job, you guys." Like he's really like, "You guys are great." You know, like, he's the only one who immediately is on board with everything. Like from the get go, like everyone freaks out when they come out of the transportation goo, and he's like, "That was awesome." Like there's nothing that can be thrown at him that he finds a problem with.
Tony Shalhoub should get way more roles like that. Like Monk is comic gold. But he should be in fucking Will Ferrell movies and shit. I think Tony Shalhoub should be in broader comedies.
Let him be dry. Yeah,
he's so funny.
So the factoid behind this is that originally
Tony Shalhoub's high all
there's
the time.
2 moments in the film which they couldn't cut out. When they first did they shot it, they edited it, they were like very confident that it was going to be PG-13 and everything was going to be fine. And this was one of the films that it was right at the crux of the MPAA having a lot more power than it normally had, because everyone became wise to the idea that rated R films do not make money if you can make it PG, which is now why Captain America never shoots anybody or hurts anybody. Anytime there's a murder,
well, it's just like you said, it's the
it cuts away
of violence.
You're never gonna see blood.
He throws his shield so hard, and it impacts with someone's skull that there is no question that person is dead. Or we just don't acknowledge it or see it or dwell on it.
My favorite one is Total Recall. The new reboot with Colin Farrell is there's a lot of murder because the thing that it's trying to mimic is
Verhoeven, right?
Filled with murder,
filled with murder.
You can't
a hard
reboot of Verhoeven without a bunch of
But the way they got
violence.
around it is every time he like shoots something, as the bullet would like go into the brain of the person, it cuts away. So you never actually witness. You see a bunch of murders happen, and you know that the murders are happening. It's just a editorial like disguise. But if you watch the movie and think about it while you're watching it, going like, how many people have I actually seen die?
Right.
You don't see anybody.
And I want to point out that we're not saying, because I think it can come off as like, I want more bloody headshots in my movies.
Sure.
Why didn't I see it? But if you're going to bring up the topic, this is why I was talking with Adam about Call of Duty World War II on one-upsmanship. And one of our main points of contention was, I said it was obliged to include more information about the Holocaust itself, which it glosses over. And he said it's not, because it's just a game and they can focus on whatever they want. My point is, yes, but if you're making a bunch of money off of the backs of the story of the thing, it's bizarre to ignore the moral core. And he's like, well, they didn't want you to see starving people in the death camps and shit because it would be depressing. And I'm like, it should be depressing because it's about the Holocaust.
Yeah, right.
So if you're going to
cash in
Total Recall and you're going to say it's about this guy in this bind we want you to take seriously, he finds out his wife is like someone he doesn't even know and she wants him dead and he has to brutally murder her, it should feel rough. It should feel impactful. Yeah.
Right. It should feel like the Verhoeven movie. That was something Verhoeven's always.
We will cover the original Total Recall. It rules.
I would love to just talk about Paul Verhoeven for like 90 minutes.
We actually did Starship
Troopers is coming out soon.
That's one of my favorite movies.
Not to cut you off, but I just want to get out just like the factoids themselves going back to Galaxy.
You have a good Shalhoub fact.
Well, there's the 2 moments in the film where they ran out of money after they were like, all right, you get an R. And they were like, wait, what? And they were like, the studio wants it to be a PG-13. And here are the 2 moments. One of which they didn't have money to go back and reshoot. And they didn't undo, they didn't have money for like CG to like mask it out. The first one is, I forget what she says, but Scrawny Weaver, right at the tail end of the hammers and the axes, she drops an F-bomb, and they clearly dub it over in ADR. She says, I forget what she actually says.
Okay.
but
like forget you instead or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a freaking or something like that. But it's so obvious that she says fuck in her lips. Like there's no way around it. So it's bad. But the other one is that as they come out of the transportation goo on the first time before the popcorn, Tony Shalhoub, they had a practical smoke. Because they were
he hotboxed his goo.
He hotboxed his goo, which is a great joke.
That's a great joke.
Wonderful.
Because
joke.
there's a deleted scene where he like lit up right before they went.
Yeah.
Because at the convention, he's the type of dude who's just like going to be high at the panel. Yeah.
So he lit up before he went, not knowing that he would be encased in this intergalactic goo.
But I do love the idea that if you're like encased in goo, hurtling through space, and could easily be your death moment, right? You're like, well, I am holding a joint.
Yeah. He's holding a joint.
Like I'm seeing the universe. I may as well be high for it.
And they couldn't get rid of the smoke coming out, and you can still witness it in the final cut.
That's wonderful.
So it's canon because the smoke's on screen. The Shalhoub is high, motherfucker.
Yeah, he's high.
One other Easter egg is if you pause at exactly the right moment when the aliens first come to Tim Allen's house to pick him up, you see his penis.
Really?
You do. He bends down to get something off the ground, and he's wearing a robe, and you see through the robe, it's the silhouette of Tim Allen's penis.
Like the shadow through the silk robe?
No, not the shadow. Like he is bent over, and you see his penis hanging, but it's in shadow. But it is not like it is the black. Like there's a straight line of sight to his dick.
Tool time.
Damn it, I was going to make the joke. I was like, and if you really slow it down, he looks to camera directly and goes,
Well, snorting coke. No, my favorite is always, I don't think so, Tim. That's great, man. What other movies do you love that you can see people hanging dong in?
Yeah, that's the only one.
I feel like, did you find that?
I did.
Yourself? That was an organic find?
That was something I thought I noticed and then rewound and was like, that is Tim Allen's penis.
Nice. That's fun. And
I believe
it's a PG-13.
And it's a PG-13
It's just a split second. You really got to freeze frame it if you want to get a good idea of how Tim Allen's dong looks. But
Allen dong.
Al-Anon?
Allen dong. So I don't know. Getting back to what makes this movie great is not just the perfection of like the fact that we talked about the arcs all are rounded up in perfect form, and the writing's superb and the jokes are all like pretty greatest hits. I think the movie gets not as much like if you listen to this podcast or if you know me, I usually am very critical of comedy, cinematography, and direction from like the camera point of view, just because they don't spend a lot of time doing anything other than like, well, here's the funny face, show it. And that's something that I do all the time. I mean, like I directed Agents of Cracked and a bunch of crack stuff. A lot of times I would be like, I want to flex my director's muscles, but then I'd always just go like, no, sometimes you just show a medium shot of Michael Swaim's face because that's where the funny is. And the audience isn't really here to be like, oh, look at how interesting that shot is.
But that's why we ended up doing a ton of episodes that were genre parodies.
Right, because we wanted to have fun. Yeah, and so we did what we did. But this movie, I think it's a lot of credit because it's not mockery of like, or it's not like ingenuity or innovation in terms of cinematography. It's a very, transparent, like normal.
It's also not shot like Star Trek. They don't ape Star Trek.
They don't ape Star Trek at all. But what it does ape is it apes sci-fi in a really unique way. And by that I mean, look no further than like the rock sequence where the rock monster is fighting Tim Allen. The way that they shoot that is from a lot of the point of views of the shots are from someone who's like watching a set or watching
gladiatorial combat.
Like if you were to like a lot of behind the scenes photography and stuff like that of like not combat, but like how you shoot combat. If you were to take a camera and look at how we not put the camera where it's supposed to be when you shoot like Gladiator.
Right, it has a behind the scenes
but
feel.
But have a camera that has a camera
off to the side, right.
Off to the side. Everything is very removed from it. And it's usually not in the dialogue scenes. Those are just normal. But all the action, all the way down to the final sequence where he shoots the
big bad alien. Do you think that's to make the danger seem less threatening to
I
the
think
kiddies?
it's to make you feel like you're a part of a convention where you're witnessing like kind of the gritty details of of that. And I think it's usually by choosing to be high camera angles, make them a lot wider.
High, wide, and stupid.
High, wide, and stupid.
Sometimes.
Well, sometimes in comedy they call it because it gets everything. But it's an efficient shot.
Right.
It's a shot that includes as much as you can for as close as you can.
Do you guys? I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but all good points, Abe. I don't disagree.
That's all.
Yeah,
I was wondering if
I never thought about that.
either of you compare this movie ever with Coneheads. Because Coneheads is even earlier, and I think this movie owes a lot to Coneheads.
Writing wise, yeah.
And tone wise. And Coneheads is not structured as well. And the jokes aren't as good. And the cast isn't as good, although Lithgow and Jane Curtin are both phenomenal. But yeah, have you seen it?
Yeah.
I watched Coneheads, but I was a very young child.
And it's been 10, 15
nothing.
years, so I could watch it again and
I watched
be like,
it
that sucked.
I watched it a few years ago. But I mean, I'd say that, you know what they both share is they both share the similar reverence for the thing that they also love. Like, so they're both sci-fis, and they both take jabs at, like, kind of like how you're saying at the top of this podcast, how, like, or you were saying, Robert, that it was like, we were making jokes about nerds, or just the idea of being a fan of sci-fi, but it did it in a genuine way. Coneheads is the same thing, where they'll make a joke and they'll write a joke or have a sequence of dialogue where it's very clearly you're supposed to laugh at how silly the family is for not knowing, for example, like how humans work.
Yeah.
But ultimately it's endearing, and it's not like to be laughed at as much, but to be laughed like, oh, this is cute. Like, and I think that the same thing happens with all the way down to Tony Shalhoub being high. Is like, oh yeah, that's just one character's take, but ultimately, tonally, like you said, Michael, I think that they share a lot in the writing.
I have to make a correction, or people will flip out. I said John Lithgow just because the Jane Curtin, John Lithgow, Third Rock connection. It's Dan Aykroyd. I know that. Yeah. Shut up, everyone. John Lithgow's also good.
I go back and forth on who my favorite performance in this. Like, Tony Shalhoub is the easy one, both because of that was a hell of a thing, and it's the simple things in life you treasure, which are probably the two best line deliveries of that movie. But Alan Rickman goes so hard in this movie.
Yes.
Like, he is committed to this character in a way that's like really like praiseworthy. Because it would have been so easy to still do a good job and not go as far as he goes.
Alan Rickman got his break very late in life and came to acting for film very late in life, and I think you can see the gratitude he has for the roles he gets to do. Like, again, Snape doesn't have to be as well acted as Snape was. Alan Rickman loved to act, and it showed, and I like that. Yeah. And he famously is super anti-method. So note to all you fucking method actors out there, this grab Thar hammer shit, he didn't pretend to be an alien to get into that moment. He didn't have to do any of that shit. He just did his job as an actor and nailed it.
200%.
And have you guys, either of you guys read the two Leonard Nimoy books?
No.
They're titled I Am Not Spock and then I Am Spock, which is the entirety of the arc of this character, right? Like, it starts off as he despises Grabthar's hammer, and then he, by the end, is
That's
loves.
True.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much his arc is a direct Leonard Nimoy reference.
It's also a Patrick Stewart thing, because if you look into Patrick Stewart, he was not 100% in on being a part of this silly show.
I gotta say, I get why. Like, Patrick Stewart is one of our finest actors and can do anything. So I understand why he was worried. I don't want to just be Captain Picard. but he broke out of that.
No, I'm
Fucking Green
he's
Room.
Richard the fucking
Yeah.
third. You know,
Yeah.
like
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think what part of what Rickman embodies in this is that early Patrick Stewart. I am an actor. I am like that is what I want to do is
Right,
act, and I'm
right.
a little bit like this is going to pay the bills for a while, but this is not going to be a thing that I'm proud of.
And then
I
in
think,
season 7, you wonder, oh, is this the only thing I will be known for after I die?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, if you've got to be known for only one thing, There Are Four Lights is a
TNG.
pretty good one, man.
TNG's
Yeah.
good, yeah. And, well, obviously, Alan is, what's his face?
Kirk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shatner,
He's a great,
that's the
and
word
he
I'm trying to think
Shatners
of.
the hell out of it.
Yeah. And,
Dan just
uh,
recommended on Daily Zeitgeist, and I'm going to amplify that recommendation. Shatner's spoken word album, which he collaborated
hell
on with
yes.
Ben
Ben
Folds and Joe
Folds.
Jackson,
Yeah.
is fucking awesome.
Are you talking about Has Been?
Has Been.
It's fucking incredible.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh my
I haven't
god.
heard it.
And it's like a PTA casting or
Yeah.
a Coen Brothers casting where it's like he didn't bring genius to it. He allowed Ben Folds and Joe Jackson, two musical geniuses, to handle him, and
Yeah.
they used him exactly correctly.
The right way.
Well,
yeah.
and there's his cover of Common People is, and I love the
Yep.
original, but I think his cover's better. Like
Yeah.
there's violence in his
And the title
voice.
track is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
and
good.
Has Been's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same I don't think it's not Werner Herzog, but it's like his collaborator, one of Werner
Klaus Kinski?
not Klaus.
You mean a
Kinski.
director?
Yeah.
Collaborator.
Collaborator wouldn't be the right word for
Yeah.
Klaus
No,
Kinski.
no. They had guns
You
to
mean
each
like
other. They shot each other at one point.
demon that haunted his life.
He produced a version of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven,
Okay.
and cast for the audiobook Christopher Walken, and it is so fucking perfect.
Huh.
Nevermore.
Yeah.
Nevermore.
Plutonian, sure.
I was just gonna say that no one should have tried to do The Raven after The Simpsons clearly nailed it, but
Yeah, right.
For too long, these country bears have been a thorn in my paw.
And thus spoke the Raven. Yeah, it's sometimes casting is 100% of the work.
well, and that getting back to Galaxy Quest, we can talk about like there's so many great actors and actresses in this. I mean, like it's a power cast, but one of the things that's best about it is all of the lesser characters are not just great, but like exceptional.
Right.
Like the all of the aliens in the background, all of the kids at convention. Like it is some of the best minor role casting that I've
The
ever seen in a
aliens
movie like
rip
this.
your heart out.
They're so good.
The naivete is handled
Yeah.
perfectly. Like the fact that Star Wars is trying to get that.
it perfectly.
The fact that Star Wars is trying to capture that cute dollar with the porgs. I'm like, the aliens in Galaxy Quest were way cuter, and
Yeah.
they were humans.
Yeah.
And it's the things they did and the way they said,
And the way they walk, the way they,
they
the
wa-
like
the
half
wa- the
waddle,
waddle, yeah.
yeah, because they don't know how to use
we
their
are the
body.
last of them.
when they find out they've been
The fact
deceived,
that they've been-
the
Yeah.
sound of pain. That
The
comes
sound
from
of pain,
that
but
man.
also
so
just
honest.
like how they kind of are like, we are the last of our own kind because he destroyed our planet, and they realize that.
Classic.
And Tim Allen, like, all right, let's get home. And then he hears that, and he immediately is like, well, then we're going to the.
We got to do this.
We got to do this thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, there's.
Which is funny. No offense. I would still be like, I'm just an actor.
Gotta go.
We should go home and negotiate with the Earth's government or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
There's like military people who might
Right.
be more useful.
NASA. Yeah.
I one of my favorite scenes I love that's like one of those fourth wall breaking moments. I think, what's the name of the helmsman? Is it Laruda?
Helms. Oh,
Naruto.
shit.
I think Laruda.
One Punch Man.
One Punch Man. But when he's practicing, like mimicking what he was doing as a
Right.
boy to drive quickly.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
and then they go through the minefield and stuff like that. Like, it's just such a beautiful, like, oh yeah, you have to think like an alien in
Yeah.
order to like think they took every moment, and that's endearing to
Yeah,
the alien
their
race itself.
literalism.
They're
Yeah.
so literal that they were like, well, you turn left and it turns the machine left.
And it gives you the delight, which is something that is missing from so many sci-fi movies because your characters are just hardened space travelers at the beginning.
Right.
There's also the like October Sky feeling of these people start as not astronauts and then they become astronauts. So on top of all the other layers, a good adventure, like Star Trek references, you get like the awe of going into space feeling. I love movies that have that feeling too, where it's like this guy who was a kid and pretended to be an astronaut gets to be a real astronaut. That makes me excited on his behalf.
Isn't it refreshing to see like an actual narrative excuse for a reason that this group of people are like special, then like cut to a movie I still like, Guardians of the Galaxy, where yes, there's a reason why he can hold the Infinity Stone, Chris Pratt, but Star-Lord ultimately, it's just like, we learn after the fact that he's a special guy because of his blood. And he was
like so many movies, he's just the hero because the movie never lets him get hit by a bullet. He just lives.
Well, he's just and it's that classic trope of he has superpowers because Kurt Russell's his dad.
Yeah, but I do like in Die Hard, another movie I fucking love, obviously, Die Hard.
Did you say Kurt Russell?
Yeah. But it is still funny that your John McClane's main ability is people happen to miss him when they shoot at him. Like, that's how he lived.
But here, it's
not
like,
all the time, though.
No, but when he's running across the rooftop in his bare feet, there's a long sequence of an AK-47 trailing him by a few feet. It's like, yank that barrel to the right, dude. You got him.
In defense of that scene, everyone who's an actual war hero is that way because the people shooting at them happen to miss. Like, that is the reason war heroes exist.
Yeah, right? Otherwise they would be dead heroes.
Yeah.
Or the people shooting at them happen to not have killed someone and had a moment of hesitation. Yep. And they were already dead inside, so they killed them quickly. Yeah.
But in this movie, they're all special boys because, to use a Cody term, he calls Star Wars, there is a special boy in my Cody voice. But in this movie, it's because the historical documents were the source material for everything on the ship.
Well, and it's also, I also love that there's a moment, like one of the things that is like part of the hero's journey that you often don't see or isn't really present in most movies, period, or most action-y movies like this, is a moment where the hero has a legitimate chance to refuse the call, which they get in this, and they decide to do the heroic thing and save these people. That is not like common. Like usually it's like, if I don't take this, I'm going to get murdered or I'm going to get killed. Like, no, you can just go back home. It'll be fine.
Right.
Like, you don't have to do this.
It's less common these days.
It's especially, also it comes straight from what you should do. I mean, this is taken straight from like Save the Cat or Sid Field's screenplay, which I'm looking at right now.
Or Robert McKee's story.
How Act 2 lands, how Act 3 starts. And so often we have a epidemic right now of our Act 2 break, or Act 3 break essentially being, well, just things escalate.
Yeah.
No therefore, just no but, just and.
Yeah. No, a lot of movies coming out now could do well to look at Galaxy Quest and just be like, I guess it's not that hard to create an arc that ends satisfactorily. We should copy this.
And in defense of Guardians of the Galaxy, that's one of the things James Gunn does that I like, is like even fucking Taserface gets like a little arc. Like it's not ideal.
The second one felt wildly more rushed and confused than the first one. And I think that's probably not his fault so much as it is like the Marvel production system is seeping into Guardians, That's why the first one in new Marvel franchises can be exciting, and then the second one almost invariably you're like, oh yeah, it feels like Marvel now. They did it.
And that's the thing. One of my big issues with the Marvel movies is that there's so many characters that are just there so they can do cool thing, but they're not characters. They're like a vessel for I want to see a guy do this.
Like even Spider-Man: Homecoming was slightly fresh, not super fresh, but slightly fresh. And I'm sure the next one he'll be very much just back in line as part of the Avengers or whatever he needs to do.
It's because they're action figurines.
Yeah.
Like I just recently watched.
So are Star Trek characters, man.
No.
Like that.
No. I mean, they're millions of action figures of Star Trek characters.
That's
sold.
True. Yeah, but
they are monetized by the same system in the same way. We were just at Alex's place, and he's got an O'Brien doll on a shelf.
Oh yeah, the Cole.
Oh, you mean like that's Dave's particular facet.
That's Dave.
Okay.
Yeah,
the whole
fills everything.
David
with
Bell's
Cole
bathroom is entirely
Cole Meany,
wall to wall meaning.
Wall to wall meaning.
One of them's just his face.
Yeah.
Like that. One of them looked, and it looks like fucking layer cake era Cole Meany.
Yeah, it's funny because Cole Meany's on a new show called Hell on Wheels that he's getting a lot of rave reviews for. I was like, Dave, you love Cole Meany. You seen Hell on Wheels? He's like, is he playing Officer O'Brien in it? Because no, it's specifically that role.
O'Brien kicks ass.
See, he's fine as O'Brien, but I think my favorite Cole Meany moment is him beating the shit out of James Bond. Just destroy.
Just going to town.
And it's one of my favorite fights because it's like a real fight. Like it's not choreographed. It's just a man who's comfortable with violence damaging another person.
It really is.
Yeah, I think it's a joke about how O'Brien is the least characterized character. I don't think we shouldn't hold Dave accountable to be like, you really think O'Brien's the best character? He'd be like, no.
I'll let Dave speak
it's
for
a
himself.
Joke. Yeah.
We'll let him speak for himself. But yeah, he is a beloved character, and Dave is a beloved friend. So we'll let that.
Yeah,
we'll let that lie.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't really have
final thoughts on GQ.
We should say a little bit more about Guy because that's a
Fieri?
role. No,
he's great.
No, we're done with Guy Fieri. Sam Rockwell in this movie. That could have been. It would have been easy to make that character annoying. Would have been easy to make him a one-tone joke, and instead, that's one of my favorite things in the movie is that you've got this guy who kind of elbows his way into a gig because he had the minorest role he could have had, and he's like nothing and nobody. And
now the consequences far outweigh anything you could have possibly imagined.
Episode 81. But I died in episode 81.
But then he rises to the occasion and he like makes himself a part of this thing in a way that feels real and earned and everything like that. I guess that's like at the end of the day, that's what I like about this movie is that everything that happens, the movie earns. The movie earns.
Oh, totally.
They're very judicious. They also use him sparingly because they know that he's not as the arc is simpler.
Yeah.
Not as deep as Sigourney Weaver's arc. So we show him slightly less so you don't get sick of him. Everything is the right amount.
And I love the scene with Tony Shalhoub where he's like, no, you are not the sidekick who dies. Maybe you're the quirky,
the plucky comic relief,
which is what his role is in the movie, right there.
It's also got
use him sparingly.
One of my favorite, maybe my favorite variations on a really common joke. The vehicle of some sort has a long, slow scrape, like an agonizing minor damage thing. That's just, that scene where
a starship trying to dock is the ultimate version of that. You can't do a better version of that joke. All you can do is a bigger starship docking. Yeah. So like they got it.
Yeah, it's great.
It's better than a car or a boat or anything like that.
And once again, the aliens aren't mad about it.
No.
They're just endearingly
They assume it's because
positive.
they fucked up on the ship.
But then you can cut inside you can cut inside the space station and hear the echoing, booming fact of your car getting scratched against the garage door, essentially.
Which I thought was a really effective choice. I mean, just going back to the alien race again, when he's being tortured, how he phases in and out of his true form as an octopus animal. Alien person.
Very thoughtful.
Yeah, maneuver. I thought it was really like that. That gets you more than most like torture scenes. Yeah, because not only are you they're endearing and you like them and you don't want to seem to hurt,
but they like you so much they try to look like you, and then it viscerally reminds you that's not even what they look like.
And then of course juxtapose that with Guy's commentary on when Tony Shalhoub and Jane Doe bone, and he's just like, that's not right, because there's tentacles going everywhere. And I love Tony Shalhoub, like the transportation dude, looks at the tentacles and just goes like, I'm fine with this. Basically,
I'm on board.
He just does a single solitary look of like, sure.
There's one of the things, I guess this is actually in line with TNG, but I think you can tell a lot about a writer, a director, a society by how often torture is shown as a positive thing. And I think in American cinema and movies, the vast majority of torture is a good thing. Or at least the hero doing it.
It's efficacious.
Yeah.
Or surviving it.
Yeah. Or, I think more than that, you see a hero do. Because if you put a gun to someone and demand an answer, that's torture. Under the legal definition of torture. That's
but I would argue that our media says more than that, it's good that it gets the job done, that it will get results. Like, it might be unfortunate that Taken Guy has to torture this dude, but it did get him to his daughter who's innocent. But that doesn't happen in the real world. No. Right? That's not.
And I like that in both the Four Lights episode, which is my vote for best TNG episode, is fucking the two-parter where Picard gets, there are four lights! Yeah. Like, Great episode. And this is this is not a deep, soul searching movie, but I like that torture is shown as viscerally despicable.
Yeah.
Like it gets a reaction out of you seeing
I wonder if that would be seen as unpatriotic today, if that scene, if it came out. Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think of, because there's often our heroes are tortured, and it's kind of like a flip side of what you're saying is like in something like Casino Royale or something where like he's going to brave the torture. It is brutal, but it's like because he's better than he can survive the torture. Here, the torture is meaningless. Yeah. It's just to inflict pain, and that is never really shown in movies. Especially in a comedy.
Not comedy. Yeah. There's plenty of movies about just nowadays.
You're torturing.
Right. Torturing. I mean, horror movies and shit. But not a family-friendly 3-act, 4-quadrant comedy.
Yeah. About a beloved character.
It's ahead of its time as far as like we laud Pixar for like, wow, Up. Mm-hmm. You really managed to rub death in kids' faces, but it wasn't like an R-rated, like dark exercise. You did it in a loving way. You were like, I'm sorry, death is a thing you'll have to face. Good for you. Galaxy Quest does it too. You're right. Like Galaxy Quest has heavy themes handled in a way where your kids can see it and they're not scarred, but they understood the theme. Yeah. That's a hard line to pull off.
Genocide bad. We should stop it. Torture bad. Good guys don't do it.
Yet without showing stock footage of real genocides where your kid would be like, I cannot process this.
Or they're minors. Preaching. Yeah, they look like they're 3 years old. No, minors.
Yeah. There's so many good lines in that movie.
Also, that joke is used in I Love You, Daddy, as well.
That's true.
Oh.
He says, you can't fuck my daughter. She's a minor. And he says, what does she mind? But in that, it's like, shut up, you old rapist. You know what he meant.
Well,
you're being flip about this?
I mean, this isn't we don't need to give it any more lip service, but it's just that the reason the Galaxy Quest joke is so much better is that it folds in narratively.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It works on the multiple levels that it's pointing out and calling attention to are necessary for the story. Are these, we need to know as an audience member at this time in the script, are those going to be the minors? Are they going to help? Are they going to turn into sharp little pointy things like Guy says, their teeth all, they're going to turn bad somehow, even though they're cute. And look at the one of them's hurt, you know, and they feast upon his flesh. You know, it's like juxtaposing the horrible nature of that in a comedic way, which is exactly, like you said, like what Up would do, or like a Pixar movie or a Universal family comedy.
And I think it's even subtler, so it didn't get called out a lot, but the girl in Inside Out has clinical depression, and I think that's an important topic for a kids movie to cover as well.
No, see, I was just frustrated by that.
How so?
Well, your dad's rich and you get to live in San Francisco. Chill out.
Okay, there's a huge privilege aspect, but I feel like you gotta know clinical depression instead of hits.
I'm not being fair to the girl.
No, all are true. Like, it's really privileged. There's a form of depression where your life is easy enough that you have the privilege to sit around being depressed. That doesn't make it not suck. Depression still sucks. But that's a different podcast we do called Tales from the Pit. Yeah.
Oh, also should be said, pretty cool looking aliens.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
All the effects.
Yeah.
Oh, the practical.
Like the actual suits that
the tentacly. The bad guy.
Yeah, like the insect.
Also, the true
guy.
form of the friendly aliens, I think, is pretty. It holds up. It's a good puppet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those two are puppets. The miners, rock monster, and the miners are CG.
Which that surprised me how well the CG holds up, because I can't.
The rock monster is aged the most, but it's not glaringly bad.
Yeah, it's watchable. It's not like Snake Plissken and Escape from L.A.
Harry Potter 1 has worse CG in it, and there was way more money involved, and it came way later. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder why that's true.
I mean, a creature made of boulders that are just big brown round objects is very smart for that era of CG. I think they chose very carefully what they were going to CG. And that's why it holds
I think
up.
that's why I'm most impressed with the miners, because they have like they're kind of
They have
humanoid.
features,
They have
yeah.
sharp teeth. There's close-ups.
Yeah.
And
You
that
know?
was on my most recent rewatching. That was the scene I expected to not work. Because
You
I
expected
was
the
like,
miners to at least look
yeah,
shitty, but they
yeah.
don't. Yeah.
But no, it works. It holds up.
Rock.
Yeah.
Yep. All right,
Great.
so go watch it again right now.
Yeah.
This episode's now as long as the Magnolia episode.
Two
Hey.
equally serious movies.
Yeah, two great films. Robert, in case people are only listening to this episode, can you remind us where we can find you online?
I am at Drug War Correspondent on Twitter, and that is the only place you can find me right now.
Abe's at Abe the Mighty on Twitter. I'm at Swaim_Corp.
And we've been Small Beans.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you.